Okay, so it's time for a home improvement project update. You'll notice that our basement now has finished windows. It's completely closed in. We have our boxes, our egress boxes, and they appear to be draining well. We've had quite a bit of rain and we haven't had any flooding in the basement. And you'll also notice that my car is parked outside. Not too happy about that. We'll get to why it's parked outside in a minute, but it's because the garage is undergoing another phase of construction. You can see that this egress window, which is our bedroom, we've actually been using it for guests. We have the drainage where it should be. It's been raining a ton, so this is a really good test. And I'll get to more about raining a ton. It's really blustery today. I hope you can hear me. And let's go in the garage. You can see my whole garage is basically emptied out and it's outside in bins. Not happy about that either, but I need the space in the garage to work. So as you remember, we rebuilt this garage. It's an old carriage house, and now it's a showroom of sorts. All new sheetrock, all new windows, lighting, insulation, heat, AC, a new garage door, fantastic roll-up door that's commercial grade. And I'm in here working today on the weekend before Christmas, and we're getting ready to do our floors. So the floors have been a pain. If you recall, I poured self-leveler on the floor a year ago. It froze during a snap freeze we had, and a completely spiderweb cracked. We jackhammered it all back out again and poured a whole new floor. This time I had help. I hired a crew. I was like, I'm just so done. I want them to warranty it. So they did, and it came out great. There's these little tiny air bubbles, but it is smooth, it is level, it looks great, it's perfect. So now we're ready to epoxy the floors. And what are we doing? We're grinding our new surface. So I've got my dust shield on my big, huge grinder. This is a concrete grinder with a 24-bit metal concrete grinding disc on it. I have it hooked up to my shop vac right here with earplugs and knee pads, and I'm going to it. I'm going to grind the whole garage floor. So I could rent, I suppose, a big walk-behind grinder, but those things, I don't know. I suppose I could. All right, so we're grinding. This is what it looks like. That just took me a few minutes to do. I'm just grinding it lightly. We need to have adhesion, mechanical adhesion for our epoxy, and also here's a few tools. You got to have these spike shoes. These just clamp on to your tennis shoes. You put your tennis shoes in there like that, and you put those straps on. They're like golf spikes, so you can walk on wet epoxy and not leave footprints. That's that. You need a serrated blade squeegee. See the serrations there? Spread the solution around, the epoxies. And then you need a regular squeegee. That one's pretty small. I got this fancy double squeegee. I don't know if I'll use it or not. It's a big one. It's like a 36-inch one. So here's some tools that we got. We also have our toilet flange there. I've got to protect that and rebuild that a little bit. All our plumbing now is in the wall. We do have a leak in our roof. It's killing me. I had to put a bucket up there so the drips go into the bucket and not on the floor like they've been doing, because that will create moisture and a bond problem with our epoxy. So I've got to dry that with a hairdryer, and hopefully the water just stays in there. We've had so much rain, so we need a new roof. I probably should have done the roof before I did all the sheetrock. Luckily it's coming out through a light fixture and not ruining my sheetrock yet. I did have a leak here. You can see there's some stains that run down the wall. I gotta fix that too, but it's also due to the roof. It's not one thing, it's another. But the floor is good for now. Once I get it ground, should have good mechanical adhesion, and we're gonna epoxy this ourselves. In fact, I'm gonna do it myself. This garage has come a long ways. It has been so much work. I hope it's worth it. So we're continuing to grind our garage floor, and we can't let our dog with wet paws in on our newly ground surface. She's gonna go out. You gonna go out? Come on, let's go out. You gonna go out there? Let's go outside. I don't blame her. She wants to go out in the rain. Oh, come on. Let's go out here. Come on. Come on. Let's go out here. No, you want to stay in the nice, freshly sanded garage and get your wet paws all over everything? Oh, I got to put you out. All right, well, she wants to stay with me, and that's fine. So the whole garage is completely sanded. I used my 9-inch diamond grinder. Get a diamond grinder. No, it's not a diamond grinder. It's just a metal wheel. I don't know what you call that. It has 24 of these lugs. It's made out of metal, and it just does a nice job of grinding the surface. As long as you hold it flat, if you get this thing at an angle at all, it digs in to the concrete, and then you got to go back over and try to smooth it out. So it's more work than a rental unit you can get from Home Depot. Probably that would be easier to run, but I really wanted the vacuum, and I don't think you can get the vacuum from Home Depot. Maybe it's extra, I'm not sure, but I have to empty that about every 15 minutes. Creates so much dust, not in the air, but it works so well that it creates a lot of dust. I can show you how much dust, if you're interested in seeing. It plugs up the filter. Look at the filter. It's completely plugged. You want to see in there? You crazy dog. So the whole garage floor is now sanded with the abrasion wheel and vacuumed. There's very low dust. I'm going to go over it with a mop, I think, and then a vacuum. I'm going to use my garage vacuum cleaner has a beater brush, so it kind of uses the brush to suck up any dust. That will help. But before I do that, I have to go around with my special tool, which is a diamond blade on a multi-tool to get into the corners. You can see, like in this corner, there's a leaf in the corner. I could only get my 9-inch wheel up to this point right here. I can take this and get in the corners and do the whole perimeter. What do you think about that? Whole perimeter. And so I'm going to do that with the vacuum running, just with an open end of the vacuum while I go along, and do all the corners around the toilet flange, every corner. And then I'll be ready for final sweeping, final mopping, final dust removal. And let's get rid of the dog. Go. No, you want to go outside? Okay, so we got to get back to work. Okay, another tip and trick if you're epoxying your garage floor is you want to lift your door up a little bit, and you're going to mask off your track, the weather seal, and where you want the epoxy to stop. In other words, I don't want the epoxy to go outside in the driveway and have like a really rough edge or drips or runs or a flow. So I've masked off a nice straight blue tape line right at the base of where the door seal hits the garage floor. And I'm going to take another tool, a grinder, and I'm going to grind a little crack all along there. Just, I don't know, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch deep by a 1/4 inch wide crack. You can actually use a skill saw with a masonry blade and just zzz along there. And what that does is that allows the epoxy to flow into that crack, and it gives it an edge to bite on so that you can't chip it. Like if you're dragging a floor jack from the driveway to the garage, you can't catch an edge of the epoxy and like peel it up or have a chip or whatever. It just gives it something to adhere to. And then I've been using my diamond sander blade on my Dremel tool to sand up to the blue line. I'll probably cut my little channel and then do a little touch up with it so that there is lots of mechanical adhesion to the epoxy all the way to the crack. So the garage is getting pretty sanded. Everything is looking good. I've got all my edges done. Now I've got to do final sanding, final mopping, and that cut by the door. Okay, we're continuing with our epoxy floor installation. I had to clean up my toilet flange. Finally got that figured out. It was broken, so I had to get a stainless steel repair flange, which I set to, I'm hoping the correct height. I fit the toilet in here. It seems like it's level and flat. I've got a ball stuck in here so that no debris go down into my toilet sewer line. So I dropped a bolt down in there, and that was really hard to get out, especially for the brass bolt. You don't want to drop a brass bolt down your toilet hole because it's non-magnetic, and you got to take out the sewer line on the outside of the house to fish it out, or you have to go through the clean out. So we got that figured out. I've got the hair dryer running here. I've got a wet spot in my concrete. I don't know how water is leaching through here, but it is. So I've got the hair dryer on. It's starting to dry this out. I don't think epoxy flooring will stick to wet concrete, so I'm letting this dry out. I'll let that go for a while. Everything else is looking really smooth, really clean. I'm tempted to start putting down the primer right now, but I've still got to cut that trench under the door, and I've got a lot more cleaning and vacuuming to do. So I'm going to work on that. Okay, so it's the next day. We're back to our garage project on epoxying the floors. Let's go through a few basic things. It is clean. I used our family second vacuum cleaner, the one that we don't use anymore. It's kind of a garage vacuum cleaner. It does have a beater bar. You set it to the hardwood floor or the lowest setting here, so the beater bar contacts the cement and it stirs up any dust. It seems to have worked really, really well, because I tried to use my blower to see if there was any dust left over, and there was none. Pretty amazing. So we've got everything masked, every door frame that could possibly get epoxy or primer on it, the toilet flange. If you're wondering why I have a hairdryer taped to the wall, I cannot figure out why water is coming through my wall right here. I turn it on and it goes away, but it gets the floor wet, and I'm afraid the epoxy won't stick. So I'm probably going to run that while I'm working. Turn it off so you can hear me. So I've got that duct tape to the wall. I've got a couple of water issues. I've got that, and I've got a leak in my roof with a bucket hung from the ceiling. I'm going to have to drain that out. You can see there's a little bit of water in there. I don't know what's up with that either, but I don't want any water on the floor. And I've got another wet wall issue over there. I do not understand how water is weeping through the wall. We've had record amount of rain. It's been raining for the last 7 days straight. There's a flood warning, so I've got the door open. I've got my channel carved so the epoxy doesn't run out into the driveway. I put a groove there right on this side of the tape. Door's open. I've got it heated in here, 60 degrees. It probably needs 65. I may turn it up just to keep everything warm. I've got my supplies all ready to go. A roller on an arm or a pole, a brand new clean tray, a couple of buckets for mixing. I have the water-based primer. I think it's water-based, what WDB is for. I'm using Metallic Floors. I'm not promoting them in any way. It's the first time I've ever used them, but reviews all say they're really good. And what we do is we shake this primer is only about this full in here. I think it's black. Shake that up, mix it with this, and 20 ounces of water. So I've got my kid's water bottle here, and I measured out 20 ounces of water. We'll mix that into a bucket. I do have a mixer for a drill and or stir sticks, and then we're going to roll that out over the whole floor. I think it's going to be dark black color, dark brown maybe, and then touch-up brush the edges. I have a chip brush there, and that has to sit for an hour, and then we go to town with the epoxy, start mixing that up. So let's get busy. Let's make this floor transform. I've been waiting for this for a long time. If you guys recall, I had cracks and issues. I got all those fixed, redid the floors completely professionally, but still notice I have a crack that popped up right there. And there's another one over here. I think it's right there. Little tiny cracks. I don't know what to do. Put so much effort in this floor. Anyhow, let's get going. Forget about the cracks, and we'll make it work. All right, we're getting the primer laid down. I didn't think 2 gallons would cover all this garage floor, but it seems to be doing pretty well. I'll probably try to thin it out, make it work, and then go back and touch up any thin spots. It's getting done. It's kind of a beige color. Not what I expected. I thought it'd be black. Primer. All right, first coat of primer is all done. I'm wearing my spiked shoes. It's kind of a trip. You do not want to twist your spiked shoes on the concrete. You will dig it up. Ask me how I know. So I'm not going to walk on it. I'm going to let it dry a little bit, and we're going to mix up our first coat of epoxy. Looking pretty good. Okay, so the next thing is you got to mix it all together. I've got 4 buckets going here. And you can see it's really a cool color. This bucket is ready to go, but I've got to dump this bucket into the next bucket, into the next bucket, into the next bucket to make sure that they're all the same and that they harden at the same rate. Okay, so we got 2 buckets of the copper or brass and then 2 buckets of the coffee. And we're going to mix these together. In other words, dump one bucket into the other bucket and vice versa, back again, just so we have a consistent mix and we have no soft spots. And look, the floor is dry, the primer is dry, and we got our squeegees ready to go. Okay, we're kind of rushing around here now. We're mixing up the other color, which is the coffee color. Our drill battery went bad, and the nuts came off of the bottom of our spikes. I don't know what's up with that. I didn't tighten them good enough. That's always what you want, is your nuts to come loose. But we did get most of the brass poured out in here, and it's looking pretty good. I've got a bucket draining into another bucket there, no soft spots. Gonna mix it up a little better and then pour out the darker color and mix it. I'm tired of mixing. My hands are sticky. I've still got a half a bucket of the copper or the brass and a half a bucket of the coffee. It's gonna make a huge mess, or it's gonna look really great. I haven't decided yet. So I'm gonna start pouring it out and squeegeeing it out and just see what happens. Oh boy, here we go. Okay, so after working on the floor all day, I think I got something. It looks pretty good. It's a combination of coffee and brass. It's all swirled around, it looks pretty good. I still have a bucket to empty there. Everything covered. I barely had enough. I mean, just squeaked by. A couple of low spots, but it's going to even out. I think as it dries, 65 degrees in here, it's holding steady, and it's starting to dry up. I'm going to lower the door a little bit now, keep the heat in, and I'm going to get some dinner. Oh my goodness, it's a lot of work. Come back tomorrow, and we'll put the clear coat on. That's the plan. Looks really good. All right, so I've been working on my floors all day long. It's dark outside. That's to be expected because it's the middle of December, equinox, shortest day of the year. We're very far up north. Stella is patrolling the yard for squirrels, and we're gonna look inside our garage. No, you are not going in there with your little puppy feet. Let's turn the light on in here. Wow, look at that. Sure is off-gassing a bit. Very beautiful, very deep. I'm not gonna walk in there at all. I'm gonna let it sit overnight. Oh, that's great. So much work. I'm exhausted. I'm gonna get something to eat. This really came out nice. The only qualms I had was my drill battery went bad when I was mixing like crazy. Didn't plan for that. And then the spikes on my shoes, all the nuts loosened up. And if I just had maybe a quart more product, it's thin and just a couple little spots, but nobody will ever know except for me. And the clear coat I think goes on tomorrow. I think this is gonna wrap it up. I'm exhausted, but I'm really happy with the results. It looks really good. Stella, what do you think? You want to go in there and run around and get all that epoxy on your feet? I bet you do.